and this speech will be washed out.
A very good morning to you, Audrey, and a good morning to our viewers. Yes, I've been speaking to a number of ANC members today, of leadership actually, just talking about the January 8th, but right now I'm joined in studio by Sifisa Matlangu, our political analyst, and Gwede Mantashe, the ANC Secretary General. A very good morning to you, gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us. I'll start with you, Mr. Mantashe. Can you just take us through last year's January 8th statement? What are the things that President Zuma mentioned that were achieved successfully in the year 2016?
You must remember January 8th last year was in the run-up to the elections of local government, and therefore it was almost launching the campaign officially. And if we look back then, we always describe our campaign last year as very energetic, but the results were not pleasing. We had an 8% decline, and now we must come out of that decline.
What are your additions to that, Sifisa?
I think this January 8th is unlike any other because the ANC has shown a deficit, a decline in the local government elections. We've seen Parliament in a way that it's never been. For the first time since the dawn of democracy, the city of Joburg is under the opposition. So the ANC had to bring it here to Orlando to also prove that they are still a force to be reckoned with. But this is also the ancestral ground of the ANC because it is Orlando. Vilakazi Street is just up the road. It is the speech of the president this year that will decide for the future. This is an election year within the ANC. So it's a heavily contested year. If there's ever a year that has factions in the party, it will be 2017 because everyone is gunning for the leader of their choice. Now, we're seeing people nominate or elect or push through candidates, but it is the NEC's decision in the end. So it's a level where a lot of factions can come in because all of us want people we are close to, we want our personal cadres or friends, to be in the NEC, to become cabinet ministers, or even, the deputy president and the president. So it's a contested year, particularly for the party. So I'm thinking this speech of the president today will be a reconciliatory speech. He's going to try and bring all factions together and say, I am still your president, particularly after he survived numerous attempts of vote of no confidence in Parliament, even within the NEC. So I think today is a day that the president will come up and prove that he's still in charge. I do hope that he will not stick to the written code, that he'll also do impromptus, because he'll be addressing the public. And today he is speaking as the head of state, Garapiti, but he's also speaking as the head of party. He's also speaking as comrade Jacob Zuma. He's speaking as a councillor to the people, in the township, and people will be expecting that he will dance. People will be expecting the usual, President Zuma choreography. They are waiting for that element of selflessness and dramatic arts from him. So the expectation is that it's going to be a big day and a big event. But we're seeing that people have come out, even though bearing through the rain, and we anticipate that it's going to be a bigger crowd. But where my heart is and where my analysis is this afternoon is the speech of His Excellency the President.
Now, Mr. Mantashe, you spoke about how hashtag fill up Orlando Stadium, that you expect the stadium to be full, and there have been preparations going on, leading up to today. Take us through how sure you are that the stadium will be filled up today.
No, the stadium is going to be full despite the rain. You can see out there, it's filling up nicely. It's 8 o'clock in the morning. By 10, it will be full. The hashtag Don't Fail Orlando was a hashtag of an opposition party. Therefore, we can't work on the basis of what the opposition want to shape for us. One of the things that we always emphasize is that we never allow our forces to be commanded by the generals of the enemy. So this stadium is going to be full. We worked hard for it. It's raining. It will disturb us a great deal, but diehards are already here, and buses outside are in a long queue, and we think that the stadium must be full, and it will be full. But the main issue is not the stadium being full or not full. It's about the message that will come out of today. That message must unite the ANC and unite ANC into action.
Now, Sifiso mentioned factionalism. Do you think that this year we will see fewer people speaking out of the leadership structures of the ANC?
You know, factionalism is old as politics. In 1966, when a committee was set up to look into the situation in exile, that led to the Morogoro Conference. One of the 4 issues that were diagnosed as a problem was factionalism. In 1958, Secretary General Tumanokwe wrote volumes about factionalism. So factionalism is as old as politics. But what is key is that the body politics of the ANC must never be fragmented by the factions. And that is what we mean by unity in action. It doesn't matter how in which faction you are, there must be one line of march, and that line of march is the line of march of the ANC. And it will come out of the president's message today. And everybody is expected to take the call from the president.
Now, the ANC Women's League has put their weight behind Comrade Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma to be the next president of the party. What's your comment on that, especially because they haven't even approached her to accept?
When I was young, I was an athlete and a sprinter. There's something called a false start in sprinting. When you jump out of the blocks before the gun is fired, it's called a false start. Normally it leads to disqualification. And my own view is that any grouping or party, COSATU did it already, now is the Women's League, that is a sign of ill discipline, because we've agreed in the MSC of the ANC that what we should be doing, we should be focusing on the principles that will guide us and use through the eye of the needle to say this is what we're going to use to select leadership. Now, early kicking of campaigns and nomination of names is breaking an agreed decision of the National Executive Committee of the ANC. But when people break that, you must always appreciate that it reflects the depth of ill discipline in the organization.
Now, what are some of the challenges, the top challenges that the ANC has faced in the past year?
Many challenges. The main challenge was the decline in the elections. It demoralized many of the cadres of the movement. We're overcoming that, we're out of money, we're now being ethnicized again, we're getting out there, we're in the townships the whole of this week, mobilizing people, talking to them, looking at progress that is being made, what is being neglected, and I can tell you that we're reconnecting with society at an accelerated pace.
And what about the relationship with the alliance partners, the COSATU and the SACP? Is that still,
You must remember that the alliance is an alliance of 4 independent parties. So they have a right to sit on their own, take their own decisions, but persuade each other. And therefore, it's not just a nice, honky-dory relationship. There are issues where we disagree. And I always remind people of the class character of the alliance. You have a liberation movement, which is a multi-class movement, in alliance with 2 working class formations. And they will be impatient from time to time, want to steam ahead. It is the duty of the ANC, as the leader of the alliance, to actually bring together the balance in the engagement and not allow it to be messy. And that's what half the time happens now, where you find that alliance partners just go and howl at each other in public. When that happens, it spoils instead of strengthening alliance relations. And we must pay attention to it.
So what would you say to South Africans who didn't vote for the ANC because perhaps they lost confidence in the ANC? How can you restore that confidence in them?
You know, the confidence is a function of many things. One, you can't fault the ANC in terms of changing lives of the people. We've done a lot of things. You know, there was an apparent crisis in higher education, but it's a crisis of our success that we've given access to higher education to young kids who never dreamt of it, from poor families and poor households, where we took a child from birth with a child support grant to a no-fee school, a meal a day until 18, graduate to a university and give them NSFAS. And from that household, you have a young professional who is actually a practical way of breaking poverty backbone at household level. Therefore, those successes are success stories that are never repeated. They don't appeal to the media. They are not good enough. They don't sell news. But we are making a lot of progress. But people will have perceptions about this or that, and we must never dismiss perceptions, because perceptions are as good as facts. They determine the decisions of individuals.
Sifiso, you have something to add there?
I think on fees must fall particularly, it's not been the most productive year for the ruling party. I was one of the people who took Mr. Mantashe up when he said it's better to shut down the institutions because the students are banning things and they don't, appreciate these resources, and these resources have become very expensive. And I took them up to say, but when will free education come? And it's a similar debate to the NEC debate of who the successor must be. South Africa must be able to differentiate between the personality and character of President Thabo Mbeki and President Jacob Zuma. And I think the party has had a lot of time to consider President Zuma to say, as much as this, the country and there are people in the ANC who want him to be recalled, it must be an NEC decision. Well,
we're actually out of time. Mr. Mantashe, just one closing comment, 30 seconds.
One closing comment. When you lead society, you also manage the crisis. You don't allow higher education infrastructure to be destroyed and explain yourself as reasonable. You shut an institution for a period, you bring back sanity to the people, and then you continue with higher education. That's my argument.